Hi, this is Gina Marchese. Welcome back to ASUG News. I have with me SAP mentors Eric Vallow and Greg Myers from EV Technologies and Jamie Osmal from Arch Coal. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So word on the street is you are all about business objects experts, so why not take advantage of your time here and give us some insights. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about the state of business objects today. Maybe I'll start with Eric.
I think we're about to round the corner again in a couple of ways. You know, BI4 has been with us for just over a year now, and I think everybody here is eagerly anticipating FP3 and the enhancements that it's going to bring. We're hearing exciting things about Zen and
visual intelligence, which they just announced today.
Lots of news.
I hear dashboards is really hot. What's going on there?
You know, we had a very good webinar 2 weeks ago, I think, where the SAP team really walked through the details of the roadmap for Excelsius. And I think that not everybody necessarily liked the answer that they got, but everybody did get an answer. You know, it was a really open format. They didn't, run away from any questions, and so that was really exciting to see for me. One thing that did come out of it is that SAP is doing sort of a layered solution to get dashboards onto mobile devices. So at the end of this year-ish, they'll be rolling out some HTML5 capabilities with the existing Excelsius product, and then eventually it will fold into the Zen product, which is also coming out around the end of the year, but that will start out as a more separate product, and then they're going to merge later.
So as maybe self-proclaimed business objects experts, you all created the Diversified Semantic Layer blog webcast series. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's part of what we do, and I guess maybe part of our mentors is to give back to the community. It's free information. It's available on iTunes. The podcast we do, we try to do it bi-weekly, but sometimes it slips. But we bring different people from around the community, and we get people from SAP, experts from our community to talk about stuff that's what's going on, so that we can kind of keep the information flowing about the different hot topics that are flying around the community for the day.
So you hear a lot about social and being social. Bridget talked about it. Bill McDermott talked about it. You're obviously being active socially. You're all on Twitter. You're doing your blog. Your mentors. 2 of you are volunteers. How has being social helped you keep the pulse of the business objects customers? Eric?
I think it's very cool. You know, you get a chance to talk to customers as a partner to customers that you might not interface with otherwise. You come to a conference and you run into somebody that says, hey, I listen to your podcast or I read your blog, and it makes the network that much stronger and makes you approachable too. So it's good to meet people and hear about the cool things they're doing that you might not hear about otherwise.
Well, and even to interface with other partners that are doing the same things that we are, I find that invaluable to be able to bounce ideas or problems that I'm having off of other experts in the area, and we'll answer each other's questions throughout the day. And it's a nice little network that has got formed through social media.
Well, and I think the social media side of it is really an extension of the communities that we've always had. We just haven't been able to connect them, right? So I was actually at an ASUG meeting in my local hometown in St. Louis last year. Someone there had a very specific question about Excelsius and BW, and I have no idea what BW is. But I immediately went to Twitter and posted, hey, somebody's having this problem. By like 10 minutes later, I was having a back and forth with somebody on there from England, of all places, and we got that customer sorted out and moved on. So
that's a great example. You hear a lot, and you seem to have the pulse. I'd like to know more about how the business objects customers, what their feeling is, if they're a legacy customer and they're not looking to move to the SAP portfolio, what's their future look like?
They have a future. I mean, the SAP portfolio for them going forward is still going to be business objects, analytics. No matter what they call it, the product is a major revenue stream for SAP, and it's not going anywhere. They're not going to force anyone on to. I mean, the reason it's so successful is because it connects to any data source. It's platform agnostic in that way. And whether you run the ERP stuff or not, that product is going to remain, and they're going to continue to innovate it and support it.
Well, mentioning support, unless you want to add to that, yeah, support, how is Business Objects being supported? You mentioned you had a webcast. What's the feeling that the Business Objects customers are getting about SAP support for Business Objects?
Well, I think there are a couple of layers to the way support has been handled, right? So, Business Objects legacy customers obviously came with Business Objects support from a long time ago. When the SAP acquisition took over, I think support was really the first place where we felt the difference, right? I mean, it was, you were immediately going to the SAP support portal. What's an S number? How do I, where do I go to find the software to download and all that stuff? I think that, and so I think it got a lot of bad press at the beginning, just because it was really different and it was the first thing that we sort of had to deal with SAP. I think that, so at the Fall Business Objects User Conference, we have an influencer day beforehand where we get to talk with SAP. The last couple of years, we've spent a significant amount of that time saying we want to talk about support with you, and they have done a great job listening with it. We had 3 or 4 support people out just the other night, dealing with community people, talking with people, and moving things forward. So, the problem with support is that you're calling because something is wrong, right? And so it's sort of a tough thing to handle anyway. But I do think that SAP has shown that they're open to hearing and working on our issues.
I think they've also shown, when we talked on that podcast 2 weeks ago, that they're embracing the other channels to get engaged support. Contact them on Twitter. It's public, right? It's a big form. It's not just a ticket going into a screen on a web page, and I think they're embracing the new mechanisms of communication. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, for those who aren't aware, they just stood up a new social channel for support. It's SAP Support CE is their Twitter handle. You can tweet them questions. They have someone that's manning it 24 hours a day.
We've seen that Twitter. She starts in the morning, says, "Welcome, I'm Pamela."
They say who it
from,
is, right?
Yep,
Exactly.
I'm here, available. I love that.
That's a huge outreach to the community.
Now, you mentioned the Influencer Summit. ASUG hosts an Influencer Summit at the ASUG SAP Business Objects User Conference in the fall. They've done it twice, but it is connected to the ASUG Strategic SIG for Business Objects. Both of you as ASUG volunteers are involved in that community. Tell us a little bit about the Strategic SIG.
Well, the Strategic SIG is meant to take the Business Objects community a step closer to the SAP system. It's sort of, I would almost describe it more like an influence council than it is like a SIG, because we're putting volunteers that are in charge of a specific area directly connected with people specifically from SAP, and they're influencing how things are going to change. How are we going to change the message to the community? How are we going to change our product or even verbiage on a document or a roadmap doc that makes more sense to the community? So again, another major outreach to the Business Objects people, because they want to make it better for us.
I'm going to put you on the spot here a little, because I know that there was pre-existing Business Objects user communities, user customers. They were very siloed, from my understanding, and ASUG is not siloed. We're a really holistic, large community, and we embraced the Business Objects customers into ASUG, created a SIG. How do you think it's going? What's this customer sentiment, Business Objects perspective, on being a part of a larger user community?
I think that it's starting to get there. I really do. I know that some local communities have had a tremendous amount of success merging. So I think Dallas and Florida are some of the poster children.
Philadelphia.
Right? Yeah. And I think that those people in those communities really get more about it. I think that some Business Objects customers weren't really that involved in the community before, and so they're probably going to largely not be terrifically involved with the community now. But I think that the majority of Business Objects customers are comfortable with ASUG now that we can be a slow learning bunch sometimes, and it can take us a while to come around. But I think that the message has been out there. I think that ASUG has shown that it's interested in us. So.
Well, I think a lot of the people that were angry about it when we first did it, they're not that angry anymore. You don't hear so much of that. There's a little, but it's not like it was 3 years ago at all. It's coming along.
That's great. Well, Eric and Jamie, Greg, thank you so much for your time today. I'm looking forward to your blogs as well.
Yep.
Diversified Semantic Layer. I had to practice that a lot.
DSLayer.net.
DSLayer.net. Thank you. Thanks for joining us for ASUG News. I'm Gina Marchese. Be sure to visit asugnews.com for information and access to our blogs, as well as asugonline.com. Thank you.